Holy hot dog, you guys. I know you're excited to do another one of these problems, okay? So, we are going to be starting with standard form and using our graph. Okay, in our synthetic division, we're going to get this bad boy into factored form, and then we can answer some nifty questions about factored form. Okay, which this graph I named Randy because it deserves a name, right? Okay, so first of all, our zeros we get from the graph, which that is where the graph smacks the x-axis. So right here, it comes down and smacks the x-axis at 2. So my first zero is x equals 2. And that's my only zero, you guys. All right, my leading coefficient, that's the number with, so first we go to the term with the highest exponent, which the highest exponent I see is a 4. So I'm focusing on this term, and the coefficient, or the number in front of x to the 4th, is a 1. So my leading coefficient is a 1. And guys, if it is in standard form, the leading coefficient is the first number you should see. So that's another shortcut. Okay, so now we're going to be finding factored form through synthetic division. It's going to be epic. Okay, so again, sometimes you can kind of figure it out on your own, so I'm going to show you how to do that, which, if you guys can reason through it, you don't have to do synthetic division, but I must see some explanation as to why you came up with the equation, so be careful. Okay, alright, so on this one, okay, the graph is tangent at the 0 because it comes down and it bounces off the 0. It's like boing. Okay, so this is tangent at the 0, which means it has an even multiplicity. So my exponent on my 0 should be an even number. Alright guys, and I only have one 0. Okay, so it's my only 0, which means, and we're assuming these are all real zeros. Okay, so if it's my only 0, and has an even multiplicity, I can already kind of figure out what this will be. So I'm going to write my answer down here to make sure I have enough space. So y equals, now don't forget, we start with the leading coefficient, which is a 1. Okay, so my leading coefficient's 1, so you can write it or you don't have to. I'm not going to write it since we normally don't see it. Okay, I only have one 0, you guys, so my 0 is 2. So in factored form, we do the opposite of that. So positive 2 here. So in factored form, it will be x minus 2. Alright, and since this is my only 0, and I know the exponent should be even, and remember, the degree here should be the degree here. Okay, so since my degree is 4, because my highest exponent is 4, okay, that means my exponent here has to be a 4. Because remember, in factored form, you add up all the exponents, but since we only have one, it's 4. So I already know that this is my answer, you guys. But again, sometimes we cannot figure this out. So I'm going to show you what we do when we cannot figure it out. So hopefully I'll get this at the end. But let's see. Okay, so first thing, you guys, we look for a GCF, which I don't have an x in each term, so x can't be it. And I have a 1, an 8, a 24, a 32, and a 16. Which the only thing that goes into all those is 1. So I do not have a GCF. So I can instantly start with synthetic division. Which, remember, you guys, in synthetic division, we put our zeros in the box. So I'm going to put my 2 in the box. This is my 0. Alright, my highest exponent is x to the 4th. So I have x to the 4th, then x to the 3rd, x squared, x to the 1st, and x to the 0. Alright, the number in front of x to the 4th is 1. The number in front of x to the 3rd is negative 8. The number in front of x squared is a positive 24. The number in front of x is negative 32. And the number without the x is 16. Alright guys, let's get this show on the road. Bring down the 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Slide it over. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. Add down 24 minus 12 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. Slide it on over. Negative 32 plus 24 is negative 8. And remember, you guys, if I do this right, my remainder should be 0. So let's see what happens. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. And holy hot dog, 16 minus 16 is 0. Yay, we did it correctly. Alright, so what we do, you guys, we start with our y equals. We start with our leading coefficient, but since it's a 1, I don't really need to write it, okay, unless you really want to. Okay, then I'm going to write my 0 that I found first. Okay, so my 0 is x equals 2. So in factored form, it's going to be the opposite, so x minus 2. All right, then beside this, you guys, I'm going to write my depressed equation. So, okay, I started with x to the fourth, so I'm going to start with one exponent less than this. So it'll be 1x to the third, or just x to the third, then negative 6x squared plus 12x, and then minus 8. Alright, so we're getting closer. We see the x minus 2 appear, but this is definitely not there yet. So you're probably like, holy hot dog, Miss Long, what do? I don't have any more zeros to put into my box. Well, guess what? If you run out of zeros to put in the box, you just keep putting zeros back in the box, because since we have multiplicities that could be higher than 1, your zeros could repeat. So if you run out of zeros, just keep putting the numbers that you have left in the box, which I only have an x equals 2, so that's what I'm going to put in my box. So I'm going to put 2 in the box again, and now we're focusing on our depressed equation. So I'm going to put these numbers in synthetic division. So my highest exponent is x to the third. So I got x to the third, x squared, x to the first, and x to the 0. All right, my coefficients, the number in front of x to the third is 1. The number in front of x squared is negative 6. The number in front of x is 12. And the last number is negative 8. All right, guys, let's go. Bring down the 1. 1 times my boxy is 2. Slide it over. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. 12 minus 8 is 4. 4 times my boxy is 8, and holy hot dog, when I add down, I get 0 for my remainder. Yay! So I'm doing it correctly. Alright, so now let's write what we currently have. I'm going to change up my colors, might as well, right? Okay, so we write everything from our previous equation except what we use in synthetic. So I'm not going to use this anymore. Okay, I'm going to use my x minus 2. I'm going to also use this number because it's one of my zeros, which means it's a factor. Okay, we saw it's a factor because the remainder is 0. This tells me it's a factor. So I have to write it in factored form, you guys. So since this is x equals 2, in factored form it'll be x minus 2. Alright, then I write my depressed equation, which is what was left over. So I have 1, which remember we start with the 1 exponent less than our highest. So since this is x to the third, this is x squared. So it'll be 1x squared, which is just x squared. Then it'll be negative 4x to the first, or just 4x, and then plus 4. Alright guys, we're kind of getting closer, but we still need to break this bad boy on down. So let's see what happens. Okay, I still currently do not have any other zeros, except my 2. So guess what, you guys? I'm going to put 2 in the boxy again. I know, right? Okay, so I put 2 in my box. We now go to the depressed equation. These are the numbers I now use in synthetic. So I have an x squared as my highest exponent. So x squared, x to the first, and x to the 0. Alright, and then my coefficients are 1, negative 4, and 4. Let's do this thing. Bring my 1 down. 1 times 2 is 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. And guess what, you guys? Incredible. We got 0 for our remainder. So this tells me we have spotted another factor. Yay. Alright, so currently what my equation is at. Okay, we write down everything that wasn't what we used in synthetic from my previous equation. Okay, so I have 2x minus 2, so I have x minus 2, x minus 2. Okay, now we also need to include this number because it's a factor, because we got a remainder of 0. But remember, you guys, this is the 0. So in factored form, this would be x minus 2. Alright, and what was left is our depressed equation. So my highest exponent was x squared here, so now it'll be x to the first. And then the one without the x, which is just minus 2. So if you see here, you guys, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 x minus 2's. Okay, so I have x minus 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 2. So a quicker way to write that, or a shortcut, is just to raise it to the 4th power. Okay, so you can just write this as x minus 2 to the 4th, and then you're done. Wasn't that cool, you guys? Alright, so, awesome. Now from factored form, we're going to answer these questions, which you guys are pros at this by now. My leading coefficient, I don't see one, so there's secretly a 1 in the front, so that's my leading coefficient, which it does match up for what we got up here. Okay, my zeros, the only one we have is x equals 2. Okay, remember we do the opposite of this. Negative 2 makes that a positive 2. The multiplicity, the exponent on that 0 is 4. And since this is an even number, at x equals 2, the graph will be tangent. So, like we said earlier, it's tangent and bounces off at x equals 2. Cool beans, right? Alright, so that's my behavior on the 0. And then the degree, we just add up all the exponents, but I only have one exponent, you guys, so it's just 4. Which, that matches up to standard form, because in standard form, my highest exponent is a 4. Alright, you guys, we just owned that whole problem. You guys should be so proud of yourself. That was pretty fun, and that was a tough problem, and you guys got through it. Way to go.